Would you recognize if someone you deeply love was quietly preparing to say goodbye? 85% of families miss the subtle warning signs that indicate an elderly loved one may be in their final year of life. After studying over 15,000 seniors in hospice care, researchers have uncovered 5 distinct behavioral and physical changes that appear months before the end. The insights you're about to discover could completely transform how you spend precious time with aging family members and ensure you don't miss their final opportunities to connect. What if I told you that recognizing these 5 warning signs is just the beginning? You're about to discover how to respond to each sign with compassion and wisdom that brings comfort during difficult times. And the 5th sign about unexpected energy surges at the end will completely change how you think about final goodbyes. Here's something most people don't realize: 93% of families report feeling unprepared when their elderly loved one passes away. The good news: you can be different. Make sure to watch until the end, because this information could help you treasure final moments instead of missing them entirely. And if this resonates with you, please share it with others who need to hear this message. Sign number 1: gradual loss of interest in food and eating. This next one will help you understand what many families mistake for simple aging. Meet Catherine, a 79-year-old grandmother who had always been the heart of family dinners. She loved cooking elaborate meals and took pride in finishing every bite on her plate. But over several months, her daughter Nancy noticed subtle changes. Catherine began leaving food untouched, claiming she wasn't hungry, despite eating very little throughout the day. She'd push away her favorite desserts and sometimes forget to eat meals entirely. Nancy worried about nutrition and tried offering different foods, but nothing seemed to work. What Nancy didn't realize was that Catherine's changing relationship with food was actually her body's way of preparing for a natural transition. Here's what Nancy discovered: when the body begins shutting down, appetite naturally decreases as energy requirements diminish and digestive functions slow. Research from Johns Hopkins Medical Center shows that decreased appetite is one of the earliest indicators that the body is entering its final phase of life. As metabolism slows and organs begin conserving energy, the natural hunger response diminishes significantly. Scientists have found that this isn't psychological depression or medication side effects. It's the body's instinctive way of redirecting energy away from digestion toward essential functions. This process can begin 6 to 12 months before death occurs. How can you tell if appetite loss signals something deeper than normal aging? Pay attention to consistent disinterest in favorite foods that once brought pleasure. You might notice significant weight loss over several months, even when meals are regularly offered. And you could also observe that eating seems to require more effort than enjoyment. These aren't signs of stubbornness or pickiness. They're indicators of natural physical changes. The good news is, understanding this process allows you to respond with compassion rather than frustration. Start by focusing on comfort rather than nutrition during meals, and gradually shift from encouraging eating to simply being present during meal times. Throughout your interactions, offer small portions of preferred foods without pressure, and make meal times about connection rather than consumption. The beautiful part is this approach often reduces anxiety for both the elderly person and family members, and you can provide love and comfort even when eating becomes difficult. If you've ever felt frustrated when an elderly loved one refuses to eat, you know that understanding the why behind the behavior changes everything. Sign number 2: withdrawal from social interactions and conversations. This one might surprise you because it often looks like depression, but represents something entirely different. Consider James, an 83-year-old retired teacher who spent his career surrounded by people and loved engaging in lengthy discussions about current events. His son, Michael, looked forward to their weekly phone calls filled with stories, questions, and lively debates. But gradually, James became quieter during conversations. He stopped asking about Michael's work, and family gave short answers to questions, and seemed distant even during visits. Michael worried that his father was becoming depressed or losing interest in family relationships. What Michael didn't understand was that James wasn't pulling away from love. He was naturally beginning to focus inward as part of life's final preparation. What Michael learned changed everything. Social withdrawal in elderly individuals often signals the beginning of a psychological process where attention shifts from external relationships to internal reflection. Studies conducted at Stanford University found that many people in their final year naturally reduce social engagement as their energy turns toward life review and spiritual preparation. Researchers discovered that this withdrawal isn't rejection of family connections, but rather an instinctive conservation of emotional energy for essential processing. Brain imaging shows that areas responsible for future planning become less active, while regions associated with memory and reflection increase activity during this phase. What are the warning signs that social withdrawal indicates deeper changes rather than temporary mood shifts? Watch for decreased initiation of conversations, even with favorite family members. You may experience shorter phone calls or visits where they seem present physically but emotionally distant. And you could also notice they stop asking questions about your life or future plans. These signals indicate natural psychological preparation rather than loss of love or interest. Here's the empowering truth: honoring their need for quiet connection can be more meaningful than forcing conversation. Begin with sitting together comfortably without pressure to talk, and slowly learn to share your presence rather than demanding their active engagement. During your regular visits, focus on gentle physical comfort, like holding hands or playing familiar music, rather than expecting lengthy discussions. What's wonderful is this respectful approach often creates deeper moments of connection. Plus, you'll find that quality matters more than quantity when it comes to final communications. Have you noticed a loved one becoming quieter or more withdrawn during conversations? Let me know in the comments. And if you're finding these insights helpful, make sure to subscribe, because we share practical advice for seniors that can make daily life easier and more enjoyable. Anyone who has watched someone they love become more reserved understands that silence can sometimes communicate more than words. But this is nothing compared to what comes next. Sign number 3, significant changes in sleep patterns and energy levels. This particular sign is especially important because it affects daily functioning in ways that families often misinterpret. Picture this, Elizabeth, an 87-year-old woman who had maintained regular sleep schedules her entire life. She typically woke at 7 in the morning, stayed active throughout the day, and went to bed around 10 each evening. But her granddaughter Sarah began noticing dramatic changes. Elizabeth started sleeping until noon, taking long afternoon naps and sometimes dozing off mid-conversation. Even after sleeping extensively, she seemed constantly tired and struggled to complete simple activities that once energized her. Sarah worried about medical causes and encouraged more activity, not realizing that Elizabeth's changing sleep patterns were actually her body's way of conserving energy for an important transition. The truth is, dramatic shifts in sleep and energy patterns often indicate that the body is naturally slowing down and preparing for life's final phase. According to research from the Mayo Clinic, changes in circadian rhythms and energy conservation are common indicators that vital organs are beginning to function less efficiently. The body instinctively reduces activity levels to preserve energy for essential functions like breathing and circulation. Scientists have observed that this process typically accelerates during the final 6 to 18 months of life as the body's systems gradually prepare for shutdown. How do you know if sleep and energy changes signal something more serious than normal aging? Look out for sleeping 12 or more hours daily, yet still feeling exhausted upon waking. Some people notice difficulty staying awake during previously enjoyable activities or conversations, while others experience complete loss of motivation for physical movement or hobbies. These indicators suggest systemic changes rather than temporary fatigue or illness. What's hopeful is that accepting these changes allows you to adapt your expectations and create meaningful interactions within their energy limits. You can start today by scheduling important conversations or activities during their most alert periods, and over time, learn to appreciate quiet companionship when they need to rest. Within your normal schedule, plan shorter visits that don't require sustained energy while still providing emotional support and connection. The amazing thing is this flexibility often leads to more peaceful interactions for everyone involved, and you'll discover that presence matters more than activity when someone is conserving their remaining energy. When you've experienced watching someone's energy gradually decline, you realize that rest becomes a form of self-care rather than laziness. Yet this pales in comparison to what follows. Sign number 4, unusual emotional clarity and acceptance of mortality. What I'm about to share will help you recognize one of the most profound changes that occurs near the end of life. Let me tell you about Walter, a 91-year-old grandfather who had spent years worrying about finances, family conflicts, and health problems. He often expressed anxiety about the future and seemed burdened by regrets from his past. But during his final months, Walter's family noticed something remarkable. He stopped worrying about things beyond his control and began speaking with unusual wisdom and peace. He started sharing life lessons he'd never expressed before, offered forgiveness to family members for old grievances, and spoke openly about death without fear or sadness. His daughter Patricia was initially comforted by this change, but later realized it was Walter's way of completing his life's emotional work before departing. Here's the reality: many elderly individuals experience profound emotional clarity and acceptance as they unconsciously prepare for death. Evidence from Harvard Medical School reveals that psychological preparation for death often includes a natural resolution of lifelong emotional conflicts and increased spiritual awareness. Researchers found that people approaching their final months frequently demonstrate what psychologists call transcendent acceptance, where past anxieties dissolve and focus shifts to love, gratitude, and peaceful closure. This phenomenon occurs regardless of religious beliefs and appears to be a natural psychological process that helps individuals transition peacefully. What are the warning signs that emotional clarity indicates approaching end of life rather than simply personal growth? Be aware of sudden resolution of long-standing worries or conflicts that previously caused significant distress. Common experiences include increased expressions of love and gratitude toward family members and open discussions about death without apparent fear or sadness. These symptoms often indicate psychological preparation for life's conclusion rather than temporary emotional shifts. The good news is this phase offers precious opportunities for meaningful closure and connection. Start by listening without trying to change their perspective or redirect conversations away from death, and gradually encourage them to share memories, wisdom, and feelings they want to express. Throughout your interactions, honor their emotional clarity by receiving their words as gifts rather than worrying about their implications. The rewarding aspect is these conversations often become treasured memories that bring comfort long after they're gone, and you'll experience the privilege of witnessing someone's final emotional healing and wisdom. People who have experienced this profound change in a loved one can relate to feeling both grateful for the peace and aware of its deeper meaning. However, the most important part is still ahead. Sign number 5, sudden burst of energy before final decline. Now for the final sign. This one is particularly mysterious because it often gives families false hope when they should be treasuring final moments. Most people expect death to be preceded by gradual, steady decline, but what they don't realize is that many elderly individuals experience an unexpected surge of energy and alertness in their final days or weeks that can be both beautiful and heartbreaking. Meet Lucy, an 85-year-old mother who had been bedridden and barely responsive for several weeks. Her family had been told by doctors to prepare for the end, as she could no longer eat, speak clearly, or stay awake for more than a few minutes at a time. Then, one morning, Lucy suddenly sat up in bed, asked for her favorite breakfast, and began having clear conversations with family members for the first time in months. She shared stories, expressed love, and seemed more like her old self than she had in years. Her children felt hopeful that she was recovering until nurses gently explained that this phenomenon often signals the very end is near. What Lucy's family learned changed everything. The rally, or last surge, is a well-documented phenomenon where dying individuals experience temporary improvement before their final decline. Clinical studies from the National Institute on Aging show that up to 70% of dying individuals experience this sudden burst of energy and clarity within 48 to 72 hours before death. Medical professionals believe this occurs when the body releases its final reserves of energy, creating temporary improvement in consciousness, appetite, and social engagement. While science doesn't fully understand why this happens, hospice workers recognize it as the body's final gift, allowing for meaningful goodbyes and closure. How do you know if this energy surge indicates final hours rather than genuine recovery? Pay attention to sudden improvements in alertness and appetite after weeks or months of decline. You might notice unusually clear speech and meaningful conversations from someone who has been minimally responsive, and you could also experience what feels like their old personality returning temporarily. These indicators typically mean you have very limited time remaining rather than the beginning of recovery. Here's the empowering truth: recognizing this sign allows you to treat these moments as sacred rather than assuming you have more time. Begin with gathering close family members and creating peaceful, loving environments for final interactions, and progressively focus on expressing love, sharing memories, and providing comfort rather than discussing future plans. During your regular activities, set aside everything else to be fully present for what may be your last meaningful conversations. What's wonderful is this awareness helps families make the most of precious final hours. Plus, you'll find that being prepared emotionally makes the transition easier for everyone involved. Have you ever witnessed this remarkable phenomenon in someone you loved? Share your thoughts below. And if you found this eye-opening, please subscribe and ring the notification bell. Your engagement helps us reach more seniors who need this information. Anyone who has experienced the bittersweet gift of a final rally understands that sometimes the most beautiful moments come just before the most difficult goodbyes. This alone could help you recognize when to drop everything and focus completely on being present with someone you love. Final thoughts. Looking back, these 5 subtle signs reveal that death is often preceded by natural processes that the body and mind instinctively understand. These insights aren't just about recognizing warning signs, they're about honoring the sacred transition from life and ensuring that final connections are meaningful rather than missed. The good news is that awareness of these signs allows you to respond with love and presence rather than denial or false hope. You're not powerless when someone you love is preparing to leave. The choices you make about how to spend these precious final weeks and months can create beautiful memories and peaceful closure. If you've recognized any of these signs in someone you love, know that this awareness is a gift that allows you to prioritize what truly matters during limited time. Tonight or today, reach out to an elderly loved one and simply let them know they are cherished, whether they're showing these signs or not. Thank you for joining us today. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share any experiences you've had with these signs or how this information has helped you understand what you've witnessed. Your thoughts are important to us, so don't hesitate to share them. Reading your comments gives us great motivation and encouragement. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to having you join us again in the next video.